The countdown to the 2026 World Cup should feel electric by now. Stadiums should be buzzing, fans should be planning trips, and excitement should be building across continents. Instead, something very different has taken over the conversation. Governments are arguing. Embassies are overwhelmed. Football federations are quietly reworking plans that were locked in years ago. The tournament is still months away, yet the damage is already unfolding in real time. What was once sold as a symbol of unity across North America is turning into a test of whether global sport can survive political pressure without breaking apart. And the answers coming back are deeply unsettling. When the United States secured hosting rights alongside Canada and Mexico, the expectation was stability. The infrastructure already existed. The stadiums were proven. FIFA believed the scale of the event would encourage cooperation and restraint. This World Cup was meant to show openness, coordination, and shared responsibility on a level never attempted before. Instead, it has revealed how quickly sport collapses when immigration policy, political threats, and power struggles are allowed to dominate the stage. The shift became impossible to ignore in January 2026. Inside the State Department briefing room, officials announced that immigrant visa processing from 75 countries would be suspended indefinitely, effective immediately. There were no special carve-outs for World Cup fans, no temporary exemptions tied to match dates, no clear reassurance beyond vague references to enhanced screening. For millions of football supporters across the world, the message was simple and brutal. Having a ticket no longer meant having access. This decision did not come out of nowhere. It followed a pattern that had been building quietly for months. On June 4th, 2025, the administration issued its first major travel proclamation tied to this tournament cycle. 19 countries were placed under full restrictions, cutting off visa issuance just days later. National security and immigration control were cited as the reasons, but the timing mattered. World Cup preparations were accelerating, and those restrictions landed directly in the middle of them. By December 16, 2025, the list expanded dramatically. 39 countries now faced full or partial bans. Some were blocked entirely. Others faced delays so severe that approval became almost impossible. Fans who had followed qualification campaigns for years suddenly hit an invisible wall. Flights were booked, hotels were reserved, tickets were paid for. Yet entry into the host country was no longer guaranteed. Iran felt the impact first and most visibly. The Iranian national team qualified through Asian competition, earning another World Cup appearance that sparked celebration at home. Supporters began planning trips to Seattle, New York, and other host cities, expecting to follow their team on football's biggest stage. Those plans ended abruptly. Iranian fans are now locked out of every American venue. Despite earning qualification on the field, they are unable to attend a single match. Their exclusion has nothing to do with football and everything to do with geopolitics. The symbolism cut even deeper. Iran had already refused to attend the World Cup draw in Miami after visa denials blocked its delegation from entering the United States. When FIFA later staged its December ceremony and presented President Trump with a peace prize, Iranian football officials watched from home, barred by the very government being honored. The contrast was impossible to miss. Haiti's situation revealed another layer of the crisis. After 40 years of waiting, Haiti's national team finally qualified for its first World Cup. It was a historic breakthrough shaped by perseverance through political instability, economic hardship, and limited resources. This moment was meant to belong to the players and their supporters. Instead, Haitian fans now face a tournament they cannot attend. All three of Haiti's group matches are scheduled inside the United States, starting in Boston on June 13th. Supporters who stood by this team through decades of disappointment will watch history from afar, not because they chose to, but because policy left them no other option. When cameras pan across the stadiums, the absence will be obvious. Empty sections will not reflect a lack of passion or interest. They will reflect a decision made far from the pitch. A World Cup debut without the presence of a nation's supporters changes the meaning of the moment itself. Senegal experienced a slower, more uncertain version of the same reality. After qualifying through African competition and building momentum from a strong performance in Qatar, expectations were high. Their opening match against France at MetLife Stadium was promoted as one of the tournament's early highlights. Thousands of supporters had already booked flights and secured tickets. Now, many are waiting without answers. Partial restrictions and slowed processing have left fans trapped between backlogs and shifting criteria. Approval feels arbitrary. Planning feels pointless. By mid-January, the situation widened even further. The indefinite suspension of immigrant visa processing for 75 countries pulled in nations across South America, Africa, and the Middle East. Brazil, Colombia, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Uruguay, and Ghana were all affected. Officials insisted tourist visas were not directly targeted, but the practical effect was confusion, delay, and deterrence. The signal to fans was clear. Entry would depend less on football and more on political alignment. FIFA tried to calm the situation. A special supporter pass system was announced, hundreds of additional consular officers were assigned, public statements emphasized commitment to a successful tournament. But the numbers told a different story. Over a 33-day period, more than 500 million ticket requests flooded in from every member nation. That averaged nearly 15 million requests per day. Demand had never been higher. Certainty had never been lower. Buried inside FIFA's own announcement was a single sentence that changed everything. A match ticket does not guarantee entry into any host country. For fans, that sentence turned planning into gambling. Families spending thousands of dollars were no longer organizing trips. They were taking risks. Attendance now depended on diplomatic weather rather than sporting merit. And that uncertainty soon spilled into politics. Germany became the first major football power to openly question participation. Drawn into a group with matches in Houston, New Jersey, and Toronto, Germany represents history, influence, and commercial weight. In January, a senior figure from Germany's Christian Democratic Union publicly raised the possibility of a boycott tied to escalating tensions with the United States. This was not symbolic outrage, it was calculated pressure. Polling inside Germany showed nearly half the population supported withdrawing if American political threats continued. Opposition was far smaller. This was not fringe opinion. It was mainstream discomfort. Germany's sports minister avoided endorsing the idea directly, but did not shut it down either. That silence mattered. It signaled that the conversation itself had crossed into acceptable territory. And that marked a turning point. Tensions didn't rise overnight. They've been building quietly, step by step. For years, Canada tried to balance its relationship with the United States while also expanding trade with China. But Trump made it clear that balance is no longer acceptable. According to Trump, China is not just another trading partner. He sees it as a strategic threat, and any country working closely with Beijing, especially one so deeply tied to the U.S. economy, becomes a problem. In his post, Trump accused China of using trade deals to slowly take control of foreign economies. He warned that Canadian companies, jobs, and even cultural independence could suffer if Ottawa leans too far toward Beijing. Trump also pushed a familiar argument that China would use Canada as a backdoor into the American market. He claimed Chinese goods could be routed through Canada to avoid U.S. tariffs, hurting American manufacturers and workers. This accusation hits a sensitive nerve. The U.S. and Canada share one of the largest trading relationships in the world. Millions of jobs on both sides depend on smooth cross-border trade. A 100% tariff would instantly disrupt supply chains, raise prices, and shake industries from automobiles to agriculture. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has not directly responded to Trump's threat yet, but his recent comments suggest Canada is rethinking its global economic strategy. During his China visit, Carney praised Beijing as reliable and predictable, words that clearly irritated Washington. At Davos, his message went even further. He criticized powerful nations for using trade as a weapon and warned that tariffs are being used to pressure smaller economies. That speech appears to have been the breaking point. Just days later, Trump pulled Canada from his Board of Peace initiative, a symbolic but very public snub. It sent a clear message: align with China and there will be consequences. Analysts say this dispute reflects a much bigger global struggle. The U.S. is pressuring allies to choose sides as competition with China intensifies. Countries like Canada now face a difficult question: economic opportunity or political loyalty. If Canada moves forward with a China deal, Trump has promised immediate action. But critics warn that such a move could backfire, damaging American consumers and deepening global trade tensions. For now, the world is watching. Will Canada step back from China to protect its U.S. ties? Or will this threat push Ottawa to double down on economic independence? One thing is certain: the era of quiet diplomacy between Washington and Ottawa may be coming to an end.